Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 12:40 now, and some breaking news coming into us from Germany. A car has driven into a crowd of people in the western German city of Mannheim.
Well, local police said a police investigation is underway. The operation currently ongoing in the city centre, but no further details have been given.
Now, as we understand, the incident occurred as crowds gathered in cities across regions, including Germany's Rhineland, for parades to mark the carnival season.
Well, we're going to get more on this now with our national reporter, Charlie Peters, because, Charlie, it seems like we're having more and more of these. I think it's too early to call it an attack, but that's what it has all the hallmarks of.
At this stage, we've seen local media referring to it as a car ramming incident. But it's clear that the city centre in Mannheim in southwest Germany has been evacuated by emergency services. Plenty of footage that we've seen and have been able to verify at GBNews of ambulances at the city centre attending to a very severe scene. And local media in Mannheim are reporting that at least one person has died, and that's been shared by national media outlets in Germany as well. The police have called on residents to avoid the area due to a large-scale operation at the central Paradeplatz city centre square in Mannheim, as we're saying, 2 weeks after that attack in Munich, which also claimed casualties from an Afghan asylum seeker. But at this incident, we don't know anything about the possible assailants or indeed just one assailant involved or suspect. But some local media outlets are suggesting that a black SUV drove at high speed into a crowd of people. We've also seen some footage that we're working to verify of police chasing a man, a video shared online of police chasing an individual after the incident. It's been reported, of course, that a vehicle rammed pedestrians in Mannheim. We have seen emergency responders on the scene, including both ambulances and police officers, some of them armed. And there is also a witness report from local media, the news site Mannheim Morgen. They're reporting that a car drove from the water tower near the city centre to the parade ground and hit people. That's according to an eyewitness at the scene.
So we understand that people were out and about for this parade or on their way to this parade for the carnival season. I mean, for this to happen so soon after that hideous car attack in Munich, hugely distressing for the German public.
Yeah, it's a diabolical situation for the German public. And as Tom was mentioning in the introduction to the story, this is such a common occurrence now. And we should also remember that in Mannheim, that there was a terror attack there last May when an Islamist Afghan asylum seeker stabbed 6 people and killing a police officer with a stab to the neck as a police officer came in to actually detain one of the people who was being attacked in an attempt to calm the situation. He was then killed, murdered, as he attempted to take control of that situation. So Mannheim, it seems now, enduring another major security situation. As you said, Tom, too early to confirm whether or not this is a terror attack, but it does have all the typical warnings and indicators of previous incidents and terror attacks that have taken place in Germany in recent years.
Now, of course, the police operation is underway as we speak, and they haven't come out with further official information. But are there any hints about the perpetrator behind this? You mentioned there was some footage that we've not been able to verify at this stage of a man being chased. Do we think it's a sole perpetrator, and do we know anything about him?
We have no further information on who could be involved, but it does seem that the footage, again, we have to stress we can't verify at this stage, but they do come from compelling sources, which we have been able to use in the past, do show an indication of them chasing one person, but there's no further discussion there. In the attack in Munich a couple of weeks ago, there was some discussion that the Afghan asylum seeker in that case was joined by somebody in the passenger seat, but that was later removed from discussions. That was no longer confirmed to be a legitimate line of inquiry for the police. But it has been reported by Mannheim 24, another local outlet, that the vehicle was a black SUV, which again would bring in further information and indication towards this being a targeted attack due to the vehicle being used. There was some confusion. In fact, we shared that confusion a couple of weeks ago in Munich, that the vehicle being used was a Mini Cooper, not a typical weapon of choice for a car ramming attack. A black SUV, however, would add to concerns that this is a deliberate and targeted attack.
Yeah, the German press seem to be saying that it's unclear at this time whether it is an accident or an attack. But we've seen previously how Christmas markets have been a target. We've seen other sort of traditional get-togethers be targeted in city centres or town centres, village centres. And this is the start of some kind of German carnival season.
That's right.
So another tradition.
Yes, in the city centre, people gathering, and some of the footage that we've seen immediately of the reaction after the incident, people running away in complete panic, very busy crowds in Mannheim, that city in southwest Germany, reacting, as you'd imagine, with terror and shock at what has clearly occurred in the city centre. The police attempting to secure the scene. And in the footage that we have been able to verify and check against other sources of emergency services attending in the city centre in the immediate aftermath, they are forming cordons around people on the ground receiving urgent medical treatment. I've seen footage of a police officer taking off a jacket to create a visual block away from people walking past who may be attempting to film or observe the incident. So a very basic and rushed and immediate response from German emergency services as we had reports of a black SUV being driven into crowds of people at the Paradeplatz in central Mannheim.
And to repeat, we know, or at least there have been official reports of at least one death involved in this incident. But we don't know anything else about how many other people may have been affected, or indeed if there is more than one death.
We've seen reports that several people were injured, but we have local media reporting one dead at this stage. Police have said that due to their deployments, an extensive deployment, citizens have been asked to avoid the city centre and take a detour. But video on social media, which we've seen, appears to show people attempting to obscure the view of one person injured on the floor, a police officer taking off their coat to prevent vision. It's unclear from footage we've seen so far just how many people have been caught up in this vehicle being driven into a crowd. But local outlet Mannheim 24 has suggested that a black SUV drove at high speed into a crowd of people. We've also seen one individual appearing to receive CPR treatment from the emergency services at the ground, and we have seen footage of multiple people lying in the street. But again, we can't confirm the number of injuries just at this time, that one person has been killed, according to local and national media in Germany. Several people attempting to support and help those injured on the ground. And also another very distressing element of this story. It appears that the police are chasing a man in some footage shared that we haven't been able to verify yet. We are pursuing inquiries on those reports at this stage.
Now, of course, this is all in the run-up to Carnival in Germany, which is sort of a series of parades and street parties, festivities that are all in the run-up to Ash Wednesday. It's a Christian celebration that has been going on for years and years and years in Germany. A potential symbolic moment there, a bit like these Christmas markets that have been attacked in the past. Something else worth noting, although we don't know anything about the perpetrator so far, is that we are on the third day of Ramadan. And traditionally, at least in recent years, we have seen a spike in terror incidents during this holy month, the month of Ramadan. Looking at this instance here, it's almost as if we found the intersection of a Christian festival and a Muslim time of solemnity and fasting. I wonder if that has any relevance at all, although, as I say, again, we don't yet know who the perpetrator is.
Well, Tom, it is too early to say for sure, but we do know that it is a consistent tactic and method of lone actor Islamist assailants and terrorists, that they will drive vehicles into crowds of people, particularly around Carnival season. It should also be noted, very important, I think, that police are on especially high alert for this year's Carnival parades after social media accounts directly linked to the Islamic State terrorist organisation called for attacks on events in Cologne and Nuremberg. So Mannheim not specifically named in those threats to those events, but we do know that the police were reacting to social media footage calling on attacks to take place from the Islamic State terrorist organisation. It may have lost its territory in Iraq and Syria, and may be a significantly weakened version of the rampaging and the appalling terror that they inflicted on the continent really from a decade ago now, from 2015 onwards. But the group, its terror cells, still operate on the continent. We have seen a surge in Islamist activity, particularly in Germany, in recent years. Mannheim itself is still reeling from that stabbing incident from an Afghan asylum seeker last May, stabbing several people, one of them a police officer who was killed. And also, Tom and Emily, let's not forget, of course, the deadly car rammings in Magdeburg in December and Munich last month, as well as that stabbing in Mannheim I just mentioned. So lots of fear and focus from the German authorities and indeed the population, who have to have an additional level of focus and concern when they go about their business these days.
Absolutely. And that change in how people go about their lives, worrying about whether they should go to that Christmas market, whether they should turn up for that particular carnival parade, just a hesitance about being in large crowds of people is something that I'm sure a lot of Europeans feel, particularly in Germany, as of the last few times we've had incidents similar to this. Of course, at the moment, we only know that a car has been driven into a crowd of people in Mannheim, which is in the west of Germany, not too far from Frankfurt. Reports that at least one person has died, although some German media are saying it may be that they are just severely hurt, severely injured, depending on which outlet you're looking at. But we're getting more information as it comes. A black SUV is what's being reported as the vehicle. I imagine we'll get some response from German politicians very soon, as well as we learn more. But a shocking day for Germany once again.